Another problem that I see is that the Israeli right wing seems very reluctant to state the obvious, and namely that A, what got us to the 7th of October was actually much more than 30 years, but let's say, counting from Oslo, 30
Correct.
years of Oslodinian uh,
Hmm.
policies and mindset, and that the current leadership, particularly with people like Gantz and Eisenkot and the War Cabinet, are essentially trying to return us to the 6th of October. That's their vision, that's their policy, to get back to the
Correct.
6th of October. And that's clearly an untenable and disastrous policy. And I don't think, frankly, that Netanyahu has any vision beyond going back to some form of 6th of October reality.
He doesn't.
So, and therefore, it's essential that more and more Israelis, particularly people who habitually vote for the Likud, wake up and demand either, as you're saying, that many of the rank and file of the Likud break ranks and revolt against Netanyahu, or switch their allegiance to some other political party
Hmm.
or entity. Netanyahu is clearly not the person uh, with the solution. He is part of the problem.
He's not a Churchill.
No, he is not.
He's not a wartime leader at all, because he too, like Gantz, Eisenkot, and the rest of them, are part of the problem. So how can he possibly be part of the solution? He can't. But in long conversations I've had with Likud backbenchers, as I call them, they talk a big game, but when you sit down quietly with them, they're scared to death of what could happen if they threaten him. What could he do to them? And I said, look at what he's doing to the country right now. Don't be concerned with your own petty interests, political interests. Think of the land and people of Israel above all else. They won't do it. They will not do it. And if I mentioned the people in question, nobody would be surprised at all. This is the rot that we have right now, supposedly in charge of an existential threat, of dealing with an existential threat. It's horrible. It's the most horrific situation imaginable. If we had an army even that was a real Jewish army led by real Jewish generals, I would say, okay, the government can fall to pieces, but as long as the army is doing what it should do, then we'll be okay. We can fight Al Kiddush Hashem, but that isn't apparent either.
It needs, it
So
needs, it needs to be understood, and many people do not appreciate this fact, that the strongest, most most powerful organization in Israeli society is the army.
correct.
And 99% of the time, the government, not this government, any government, the Israeli government, whoever it happens to be at the time, accepts the recommendations and the vision, so to speak, the solutions offered by the army. So a great deal depends on changing the leadership of the military.
100%. It was France's great wartime premier, Georges Clemenceau, that said, war is too important to be left to the generals. Well, if that was the case during the First World War, it's certainly even more relevant for us right now. And cleaning that situation up, unfortunately, must take either a massive defeat, God forbid, or a new government that will clean house from top to bottom. And as we just discussed, that's problematic right now. I'm going to keep talking to people, backbenchers. I'm going to keep doing that. I love our country and our people too much to just give up, throw my hands up and say, well, it is the way it is, and we can't change it. We must try to change it. We must at least try. And so I'm going to continue losing what little hair I have in frustration, trying to convince these people to put the interests of the land and people of Israel ahead of their own narrow interests, political interests. However frustrating that may ultimately prove to be. I don't know. I don't know how to surrender. I just don't. It's not in my vocabulary. It's not in my DNA. I don't know how to throw my hands up and surrender. I just don't. Not when it comes, especially not when it comes to our people. I just don't know how to do that.